Let's welcome him right now. One of my teammates I came in with, 18 years old, fresh-faced, to Ohio State's campus, Mr. Maurice Clarett. Thanks for coming on, man.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be hanging out with my old buddy, my old friend. Now that you've slowed down and come back to Ohio, it's fun for me just to be here to see you. It's cool, man.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like we were just talking before I hit record. 13 years ago is really the last time that I've had a lot of contact with you. That time has flown by for me. I'm sure at different times in your life it's gone faster than others since then. But what a weird deal it is that we're sitting here both 31 years old talking now, and you look the same, man. You look great. Big old rock head you got that you used to run me over with in practice. You look great, man. I think everything you're doing is working.
Nah, I'm just enjoying life, man. The expression on my face is just and how I feel about life. You know what I mean? I was telling a bunch of people. I always got the story. I'm not sure if you remember this, and I didn't tell you this on purpose. But do you remember during the Kent State game when I came and tapped you in on the sideline, and we were playing Kent State, and it was an A-gap rush, right? And so in the process of that, you was a backup A-gap rusher, and then you went in, and as you went on the field, Coach Snyder was going crazy, like, who put AJ in? Do you remember any of that? And you and Donnie Nicky, I think, had blocked the punt.
Yeah, I think Donnie blocked it, but I remember going in. Yeah, definitely. And that is true. What are you doing in there? Why were you on punt rush?
But I remember I got tired. It was so hot out there, and it was like a fun moment. I always tell people that time. Like, that was, remember, the first time that I remember seeing you getting on the field. I'm not sure if you were on prior to that on some sort of special teams, but I just always remember that moment in time when we were young and the top 50 seniors coming from high school. But I feel like those are good memories, my man.
They are, man. It's crazy how fast it has gone since then. To think that was we were so young. I know when I was my freshman year in college, so we went and, for anyone that doesn't know, we came in together, myself and you. You actually enrolled early, came in the spring of, like, so when I was a senior in high school, I came up to watch spring practice, and you were already in there with the pads on, playing with those dudes. So I remember watching you, and you definitely stood out. You were ready to go from the jump, that's for sure. So we came in together, and then win the national championship our freshman year, and obviously you were a monster part of that with the historic year you put up. I still remember the first home game, the first game of the season, obviously, and it was it Texas Tech?
Texas Tech, yes.
Texas Tech with Cliff Kingsbury. You went out there. It was a big deal that you were going to start at tailback because you were a freshman. And you went out there. I'm sure you remember your exact stat. I don't know if you remember the exact stats. You had probably 3 touchdowns. I'll let you get it right after I finish my just statement of praise for your game you had there. But all I remember is 105,000 people strong chanting your name, Maurice, Maurice. I'm sure you remember it. And I'm thinking, I remember just looking up like, this is unbelievable, man. This dude is like, I've been on campus 3 weeks, and he got this whole place in a trance. So that was a monster game for you. Like, your coming out party nationally, at least. Everybody already knew about you, USA Today Offensive Player of the Year and all that. But how did were you able to, like, take that in, or able to even, was that even able to, like, how did your brain comprehend all that attention? Boom, right? First game of the year.
No, I think it's no one can prepare you for fame, and I think that you probably understood that, or you came to that understanding at some point. No one can understand. No one can explain to you how to manage your popularity. And so I went from Joe Blow, being a freshman, trying to get a starting position, and then obviously winning the starting position. And overnight, I felt like I was as big as the coach. You know what I'm saying? Because you had the stadium rocking, everybody was happy to see me, everybody was happy and cheering, and your brain just doesn't process it. You remember at that time there was a popular show, MTV Cribs, right?
Oh yeah.
And so we would watch it, and you would visualize yourself as a star, but you would see yourself as this individual. And I can remember when I got done playing, in my mind, I was trying to live that life immediately right after the game. I was like, this is the individual I want to be. This is how you're supposed to act when you have some sort of success. And so that moment, it kind of entrenched me, you know what I'm saying? And even though when you're young and you're kind of doing all this stuff, you don't realize you're lost. But that first game, when I look back on it, even when I was in prison, I was like, man, I'm lost. You know what I'm saying? At that moment, I was lost because I just didn't know how to manage sort of the hype.
And you said you wanted to live that life, like the MTV Cribs life. Are you saying directly after that first game that you started processing that way, like thinking on campus, everything?
Yeah, because just think about it, right? And I want this to be like just candid and loose and straightforward as possible, right? So you come up in so much pop culture influences you, right? And you have an image in your mind of what you would do if you had success. And so I never knew in my mind that all of that success or the feeling that I was chasing, I didn't realize it would come so soon. So as the feeling comes and the popularity comes and the attention and the picture taking and the autograph signing, as those things come to me early on, I get a chance to act out who it is that I believe I'm supposed to be in my mind. And so that affected me. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't any parameters. There wasn't the cognitive skills weren't in place to be like, hey, these are the consequences of the choices. It was just everything was pretty much reactionary. I was reacting to everything, but also I was on a national stage and didn't know it. I didn't know the magnitude of the position that I was in.
Yeah, I got a front row seat of it, and I was young as well, and trying to just soak it all in, and I was just there. When I look back at it now, it's like, we were there. I've said on here before. I remember being at the 50 after we won that game, the national championship, beat Miami. You stripped Sean Taylor, which was probably the play of the game that people, they still talk about, but they should. That was an unbelievable play there, and scored the game-winning touchdown. I remember being on the 50 and talking to some guys that were like sophomores, juniors. I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man. We're coming back again next year. We're going to win this thing all 4 years. Like, I just assumed that's what you do. I'm like, this is Ohio State. What do you mean? Aren't we going to win it every year? And we obviously did. We didn't get back to the national title game when I was there, but it's a tough thing to do. They just did it this year, which was a crazy run they ran, but. The thing, what made me think about too, when you were saying that lifestyle and you were living it in a national stage and you didn't even really know it, you're also at college for the first time in your life. And people say, I've heard regular students struggle with that, getting away from their parents, getting away from having, there's no real rules. There's no one really holding you accountable. You get to college and no one's there telling you when to go to bed or telling you to go to class. We had some coaches that would check on your classes and try to make sure you're there, but you're dealing with that on top of all of a sudden becoming this, not overnight, but kind of like an overnight just crazy megastar, one of the biggest names in the nation right there off that first game.
Yeah, and so as you're going through this and you're having this success, it just becomes a vehicle to enjoy the moment. If you could take it back, if you remember around that time, we were so I was interested in staying healthy for the season. I had a knee problem, I had a shoulder problem, things like that. But there was nothing set in place to just develop me to have a better understanding as to what I was around and who I was around, or how it was that I basically should have been living. You know what I'm saying? Of course, like these days you have so many, even I call them lollipop programs to this day, but at least you have some effort to try to get guys to sort of have a better understanding of what position that they're in. You know what I'm saying? I had a close relationship with Trussell, and Trussell was good to me because I had direct access to him every day. So it was good to just have somebody gauge my behavior and to help me develop. But there's a level of independence that you feel once you gain popularity. Money and fame, whether no matter how you acquire them, there's a level of independence that you feel that you have outside of anybody that that you imply or implement in your life, that sometimes is easy to manage and other times it's not.
Do you think, if looking back now, if there was someone that came to you, and I know Coach Trussell, you leaned on him hard, but he has 105 guys on the team he's trying to corral as he's trying to win games, so that's a lot to put on one guy. But do you think if you had someone from outside the program or even inside the program step to you and kind of, I don't know, if even get in your face or do anything, do you think you would have listened?
And I would say no, and I'm just putting this conversation in context.
I don't think I would have listened either, by the way. I'm 31 and I have a hard time listening when people want to tell me how I'm supposed to act. So I know if I was in your shoes at 18, I would have.
But I'd say this, to understand, I think we have to break this down. Thinking is a skill. And everybody thinks that just because thoughts run through your head that you're thinking, but thinking is a skill that you develop. Understanding how to critically think, understanding how to problem solve, understanding how conscious you are, and things like that, and things that in that field, those things become skills. And when I was in prison, and I developed my mind in regards to developing my cognitive skills and how you think and how you assess things or how you distinguish things, I realized that there's not a lot of that development at the collegiate level, right? If AJ wants to get fast, AJ goes to the speed coach. If AJ wants to get strong, he goes and bench presses and does all these things, or he drinks a shake, and we pour an enormous amount of resources in the athletic development, but there's nothing that characteristically helps you to develop as an individual, right? So you're from Centerville, I'm from Youngstown, right? We come up and you have two different views on the world, right? You have an upbringing and structure that you have, but you have Maurice Clarett, who comes from inner city Youngstown, who's drastically different from AJ, right? And so there's not a one size fit all, or there's not a situation which will make you to believe that Maurice knows everything AJ knows, but it's to have this understanding, right? Yeah. And so in the process of doing that, you have to realize that I'm not as developed socially. I may come from a failing school district. I may come from a different set of challenges. So there's certain behavior that comes along with that, right? And in the process of that, you have a lot of coaches who will say this, AJ, what was the favorite thing? Hey, play the game, act like something, right? And when you're acting like something, you're not thinking, you know what I'm saying? You're not understanding consequence. You're not understanding things of that nature. So the answer is no, but to explain is that, hey, I didn't have the skills to think.
So, it's true. That's why, especially college football, there's so many players. I think you can have over 100 guys now. I don't know, but it's somewhere around that. Just think of the different backgrounds guys are coming from. I don't know what the answer is. I think you can put as much information as you want out there. It's up to the guys if they want to listen or not. Like, I've been to the rookie symposium and all that, and everyone knows the guys that really need to hear it are the ones that aren't listening most of the time, especially when you're young. I didn't want to listen. I mean, it was so, like, they just kept repeating themselves. And I know that it's good that they want to educate people on it, but you sit and look at the dudes that you have and think, this guy might struggle in the future, and he's dead asleep. Like, that's just kind of how it is.
No, I'll say this. Okay, so what happens, right? And okay, we're creative, right? We have minds, we have brains, right? So what happens if you're taught the information? Okay, I agree with you with the rookie symposium. I believe once you feel like you've made it, there's nothing else that anybody can tell you, right? I've made it. I went through college. I went through all this stuff. This is just formality. But what happens if you have, and this is a thing that I'm attempting to put together, what happens when you have a high school symposium, right? What happens when you deliver this information to guys who are impressionable, right? Because when you're in high school, if somebody tells you to go run 5 40s in a row at a Nike camp, you're going to get up and you're going to do it because you think that this is the way. And so when I think about it, I say, man, maybe they deliver this information too late, and maybe we should deliver it earlier and put it in its proper context, right? Maybe there should be, like at Ohio State, you have world-renowned educators. You have sociologists, psychologists, and you have psychiatrists who could understand behavior in an environment, right? They have long, extensive studies on this stuff. But what happened if Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel will go over to the athletic department and say, hey, or not the athletic department, to these mental health services and things of that nature, say, hey, can you put a personal development program for my guys that a guy can learn year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, however long he's here, to become a better individual, right? And I want AJ to become a better individual because at some point, AJ has to go back to Centerville, right? He has to talk to these kids. He's going to have a bunch of social influence. And so as a representative for Ohio State University, I want this guy to be the best individual possible, right? Can I tell AJ that, AJ, hey, only 1% of you are going to make it, right? 1 out of every 100 is going to make it. So in understanding that, can we prepare you all in that aspect, right? When Maurice, when you come in, can we prepare you academically, right? Can we tell you that there's somebody here who's sponsoring your scholarship, right? And in that regard, hey, Maurice, maybe you're not going to make it in football, but let's get you some coursework to line up to get an internship to find out and discover who it is that you want to become, right? So I'm not speaking of just one Maurice Clarett instance. I'm speaking of so many guys that you probably know in the NFL now, and so many guys who come from different environments to better prepare them, so they just set themselves up differently. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're onto something. They're trying to get to them early, and you got to have. I think it has to be presented in the right way because I know if you come at somebody with, especially athletes, that's what you're born to do. Is like someone tells you can't. Like you said, if I was in high school and someone says go run 540s, you know, we'd probably go run 20 of them, you know, and don't care if he's watching or whatever. That's just like, okay, well, if 5's good, then 100's better. That's just how it is, and that's what makes guys great, you know, great players and you know, to fight through some stuff. But, yeah, it's like a complex deal. I don't know. I mean, I think, yeah, if you can get to them early and you can have a good message, that's why I think your message is cool that you have. So if you go into inner city Youngstown, the kids, and you speak to them, you're going to have a lot more impact on them than I think I could have because, let's just say the difference between Centerville High School and where you grew up, I don't even know exactly. I don't know all the details, but I was very lucky. I had awesome coaches, awesome teachers my whole life. And I haven't had a lot of like off the field adversity, you know, like from the outside looking in, everything's, it's cake. He has no issues ever, you know, he never had to deal with anything tough, which everyone knows that's not true, but it's compared to what a lot of people had to grow up with. I didn't, you know, and my parents were very supportive, everything. So if a guy like you that's been there, shown, you know, these kids know about you and how well you've played, how great of a player you were, and then seeing you kind of hit rock bottom and then boom, you're back up, and now you have this inspirational message. I think people can relate. And so anyone can relate to that. And if you come to them from like a peer-to-peer deal, instead of saying like I'm up here, I'm this guy, and you guys, I'm speaking down to you kids. I know I instantly tune a guy out if he speaks down to me. Because they all want to say that, you know, you guys, you know, you said it. They're like, you know, everyone's seen the old speech where a guy will come in, a big crusty guy in a suit, and he looks over at a whole room full of guys that say just got drafted, or, you know, it's a symposium. He'll look at it and be like, you see this? Within 12 months, 72% of you are going to be gone out of the league, you know, and they want to do that and scare you. I'm like, get out of here, man. Like, I don't react well to that. That makes me want to go against this dude. So if you can, like, relate to the kids is the thing. So I love your story that I want to get into. But transition from that real quick, what popped in my head, after that, let's say that Texas Tech game, first game of your freshman year.
All right.
How fast before, and I don't know any details of anything I don't even completely know why you were suspended for the full season after our freshman year. Okay, but how long before people started coming out of the woodwork wanting to like offer you stuff that are considered NCAA violations? Or was it already happening?
No, well, there was nothing. To put it in context of what I got suspended for, I got suspended for, everybody wants to be around you. They wanted to be around me. They want to associate themselves with me. They want to let you in the clubs. They want to let you in the parties and things of that nature. But there was no, what was that old game show? There was no like blue chipper thing happening. There was nobody standing
with
there.
Shaq and Penny and all them giving them duffel bags of cash.
Yeah, there was nobody standing with duffel bags of cash waiting for me. The majority of stuff that I had was basically from family members who would just basically, to be honest with you, who sold drugs, and they would give them to me. I would use their cars and things of that nature. But what I actually got suspended for, the first thing was that in high school, I had a cell phone, right? And my booster paid for the cell phone from my junior year in high school to when I was a freshman. And so for every month that he paid the bill, that was an NCAA violation. The second reason I was suspended, a man that gave me a $25 check to come to his kid's birthday party. And the third reason that I got suspended, I got suspended from being evasive to the university, right? I wouldn't cooperate with them, and I wouldn't tell them what they wanted to know inside the investigation. But the fourth thing was actually a car. And so to tell you the story, I don't know if you even know the whole story, but I used a car, and the guy had got a car from an auction. And for those who don't know, when you get a car from an auction, they sell it to you as is, right? And so my car broke down. I went to go get the car, and I drove down, and I skipped class, actually. And so I'm working out, and the secretary at the time, she came in and said, whose car is that outside? And so I didn't say anything because I thought I'd get in trouble. She said, by the way, there's a broken window. Whoever car it is, the window's broke. So I go out, I call Coach Tressel, and in the process of doing that, I asked him, what am I supposed to do? He said, call the campus police. I called him, filed a police report, tell him about the items that were missing, and the thing was done at that point. So when the NCAA investigation comes back, they say, hey, let's go through the details of this report. And so when they looked at the items that were taken out of the car, they were asking me where did I get them from. I said I didn't have these things. These things were mine. They were the actual car owners, and this was his car from a day before. And they said, well, you filed a police report. And I said, okay, I filed a police report, but I didn't file an insurance claim. I never tried to get anything back for these. And they said, could you prove what was in the car? And I said, no. And as a condition of me coming back to Ohio State the next year, the condition was that I say I falsified a police report because I couldn't prove of what was in the car. And that was part of me basically humiliating myself. So to answer your first question is that I had family members kind of coming around me, but to explain what I got suspended for, those are the actual things I got suspended for. Nonsense at the end of the day.
Okay. Did who the guy that gives you the car, who was he? Just a local car dealer you knew?
Just a local guy, and he didn't even try to give me the car. I just went up there and said, hey, I need to use a car. And he was like, oh, you're Maurice Clarett. And at this time, just imagine, right, we won the national championship, and I'm pretty sure at some point he was probably wedging himself to do business with me, but he just let me use a used car. Like it was a Monte Carlo, like a 2000 or 99 or 2000 Monte Carlo.
That is considered how weird the NCAA is. That like if a college kid now goes and a dealer gives them a loan or car, is that officially a violation? That's
an official violation. A violation is considered anything extra outside of what the institution gives you. So if AJ has a hamburger or a chicken sandwich from Cane's, the institution didn't give you that in your training table, so you've made a violation.
Okay, and so so the stuff that was stolen, you told him what was stolen, but did you tell him it was this guy's?
Yes.
It was his CDs and clothes or whatever?
Yes, and so to put it in context now, right? To put it in context for those who have never seen the story, if they've never seen it, they can go watch Youngstown Boys, and it is
which is great, by the way. I'm going to ask you about that later.
It explained it in detail, but to put it in context, me and Andy Geiger were bumping heads at the time, and so
the athletic director at the time,
the athletic director. We were bumping heads at the time, so it was a bigger issue than what it should have been. And just as a note to yourself, the NCAA only wanted 4 games. So the NCAA comes to Andy Geiger and say, hey, we want 4 games. And the institution suggested I get suspended for a season. So I was actually supposed to be back that second season. He suspends me and recommends the entire season. This is one thing you may not know. So my scholarship check is cut. I'm not allowed at training table. I'm not allowed back at the university, and I'm not allowed to have priority scheduling. And so they make me reschedule my classes, and I can't come to the Yonkin for tutors anymore, right? And so from you being inside, you understand you understand what I'm saying to you, right?
Yep.
So I can't get the tutors, I can't get the classes, and I have to pick my grades up to a 3.0 in that quarter, and that's basically the creation of destruction.
Was this the spring of our freshman year?
That's the fall of going into our sophomore year.
Okay, so the season was starting at the time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, see that. Yeah, that's what I get all. It gets so mixed up with the timeline of all of this stuff because when I think back, because I remember when Youngstown Boys came out, a lot of guys were asking me about. They're like, oh, do you see him? I'm like, yeah, of course I saw him. They're, you know Maurice? I'm like, I came in with him. We're in the same recruiting class, of course. Yes. They're like, oh man, I didn't know. Like people don't know, but when I saw that Youngstown Boys, it reminded me of so many. I forgot. Didn't forget, but it was like I was like, man, so many things packed into 1 year, man. Like you had a busy year, 11 months, whatever it might have been, from when you started in the spring of your senior year, all the way through the national championship, and then everything after that, man. That was, it's crazy thinking back. I'm trying to. So if you said you get stuff from do you think, man, it's just there's so many different weird deals going on, like
talk about whatever, but like this is your show. That's
yeah. I don't even know why. I just got like confused at the timeline for some reason, thinking like, how did all of this happen so quickly? And I do remember, even in the 30 for 30, I'd honestly almost completely forgot about Andy Geiger being the AD because Gene Smith came in a couple years later and has done a great job, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, this whole Andy Geiger thing, and then the national championship when you wanted to fly home to go to a funeral, and then they said you didn't. Did they say you didn't file the right paperwork to get a flight home or something?
Yes.
And
go ahead.
No, was that like was that something misconstrued in the 30 for 30? Because didn't they interview Andy Geiger, and he said, or they showed an interview from back then from like Tempe where the game was, and Andy Geiger's like, we would love to have Maurice go back to see his funeral, but he didn't file the paperwork.
Man, it wasn't misconstrued. I went to them and I said, hey, I need to go home for my buddy's funeral. And they said, hey, we'll get you home. We'll figure something out. And so I was talking to the people who were in charge, and they're like, hey, we'll let you home and all this nonsense. And so remember, we were 2 or 3 hours West Coast time, Pacific time. I'm not sure what time zone they are, but we were behind. So I remember waking up, and Troy was my roommate. So when I woke up, I was like, man, the funeral's starting already. And so I knew in the back of my mind that it was like just a bad deal. And so from there, we actually had media day, and that's what basically caused a huge storm. That's when I called him a liar, and it all happened within one day or one instance. And so in order to protect themselves, right, when you put it in context, right, Ohio State hasn't been to the national championship since '68. And so now we're here, and our star player wants to go back to Youngstown to view his buddy who got killed in a drug-related crime. From their perspective, it's like, we don't want any of this attention. Mm-hmm. From my perspective, it's like, you're cool enough to come and get me out of my neighborhood, but you don't want any association or any of my reality. And so from that standpoint, that's how I felt at that moment. Like, if you go into these neighborhoods and you go get these kids and you promise them and you stand next to them and you say you're going to take care of them, like, you have to realize that they have a reality too, and it may not be publicly cool, but this guy has a reality, and he has a talent that he's given to you. So like, help him through that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He's assisting you in your process. Help him to grow through that and gain a better understanding of it. That was just my perspective on it.
So do you think if they would have just, if say you came to them, Andy Geiger, whoever, and told them you wanted to get back for this funeral, if they would have just sat you down like, okay, well, if you want to go here, we at least let's cover our bases and make sure we fill out the proper paperwork, and then the team or the university can pay for your flight. Do you think that would have been the better way for them to handle it? And then that way they wouldn't have had to deal with, obviously, your comments at media day and you coming out just already upset?
It's simple. Like, listen, we can fly their kids down, we can fly their family members down, we can figure out ways to do all these other things to fly everybody else down, right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to me, you can find hotel rooms for them, you can find times for meals for them, you can do all this stuff. But when it came to me, we couldn't somehow, like, the buck stopped, like the fax machine didn't work, or the internet didn't work, and we couldn't pull these forms up, or the phones didn't work, and they couldn't call the NCAA. You know what I'm saying? And so kids are not naive. So even though we can't articulate ourselves when we're younger, we still understand when bullshit is taking place. Yeah. And so when you can't express yourself with words or defend you, what do? You act out. You know what I'm saying? I'm expressing myself in the matter because I'm frustrated from what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And media day happens to be here, and I can express myself through this mic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Did anyone from any of, like, the PR guys back there at Ohio State, did they get to you before media day and try to did they have a sense this was brewing in you? Because I think now, from my 9 years in Green Bay, if they'd have known anything was brewing, every PR guy that was in that locker room would be like, hey, just calm down, take a deep breath. If they ask you, just veer off. They wouldn't want any of that out there. No,
I mean, they were naive to the process.
They probably didn't think you were going to go out there and call liars, did they?
Oh, like, I've always been like, I believe part of the thing that made me great on the field when I was playing is I just don't care. You know what I'm saying? Not care like in a naive way, but I'm not. I have like a level of confidence and a level of fortitude and a level of courage that I developed coming up. You know what I'm saying? So nothing bothers me. Like, if I say something, I'm not worried about if AJ agrees with me or not. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've never been able, like, I never censored myself because of what I thought AJ would think of me. You know, so I can say what I say or do what I do, and at times you understand the consequences, and at other times you don't, but you're comfortable because you understand why you did what you did. You know what I'm saying? And I've always had that. I'm a little bit more responsible with it now, but even at that point, I just was like, yo, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can. Yeah, sometimes you know what the consequences are going to be, but you're prepared to handle it. You don't care. You're standing up for what you believe in. So I could see that being one of those cases. And then, so okay, you go in there. You're basically the hero of the national championship. We win. Boom. What happens after that? When you went back to campus, did you go to class after that?
No, and that's when sort of the lollipop stuff came in place. And so I went to I remember I go to the guidance counselor at the time. It was Darren at the time.
Darren Meeker, right?
Man, Darren Meeker.
Darren Meeker,
He's the AD over at or he's the superintendent, I think, at Olentangy Schools.
Okay.
And so I go to him and I say, let me sort of take some lollipop courses. And I took like officiating golf, officiating softball, women's studies, and some African American studies course, just like nonsense, right? Mm-hmm. And you remember at the time LeBron was coming up. You know what I'm saying? I spent a great deal of my time going back and forth, hanging out with him, watching games, and just being around.
He was a senior in high school at that time, right?
He was a senior in high school, and at that moment, I just thought I was bigger than the program. You know what I'm saying? I had basically experienced everything I experienced at the national championship, and so that individual who I wanted to be, just like to put it in context, right? After the national championship, I go to Vegas. I'm partying and. I'm hanging out with Jay-Z, and then a month after that, 50 Cent was on tour. I'm on tour with him, and I'm seeing Snoop. And these guys may not be nothing now to people, but when we're 18, we love these individuals. These were the most popular, most famous, and most successful guys from my culture, just in regards to music and how important that was. So that's what my off season consisted of.
You're like the original Johnny Football.
Basically, before social media.
Yeah, well, exactly. So you could actually do it. You could actually go outside. That dude gets his whole process. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can come back from his whole deal. That'd be a good story if he did. But yeah,
absolutely.
It's a different time right now for sure. I was talking to somebody, even like my senior year in college. I think I still had the old flip phone or the Trio, and so I don't remember pictures being a big deal. No. And now they are for college. It's a joke now. Give a college kid a camera. Every kid has a camera on them at all times. A lot of people are going to get in trouble, man. A lot of people are going to document some stuff that shouldn't be documented too behind closed doors.
If you record enough of anybody's life, it can get bad. You can take, like I learned this, man. You can take anything you want out of context. You know what I'm saying? You can take a snippet from here and you can frame it with a title, and then you become the worst person. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's why I like this. I do these like podcast type things because they're long form. You can actually get a real response, and I don't have a 3-minute soundbite I have to get from somebody, or that we can actually learn a little bit, because I'm curious like anybody else. And I came in, I was in the same recruiting class as you, and I'm really curious about what all your whole journey's been, because I've been watching from afar like a lot of people, and I remember going through all that stuff, but. Today, I mean, we're not going to post this for a couple of days at least, but I'm sure today you were busy. Today is the day that we're recording that is Aaron Hernandez got sentenced to life in prison and was found guilty of premeditated first-degree murder. And I think you've already talked to some different media outlets and tweeted about it. Have you been getting a lot of people to ask you like the comparisons or what that feels like when you hear that guilty verdict?
You had a mixed response, because I think a great American struggle is understanding how to separate content and context. I think when we come to the age of thinking, a lot of people don't have the skill to separate the two. And so when I sent a tweet out earlier, I said, I understand how he feels in that moment. I understand how he'll feel heading back to a cell. And just to imagine, we're only using 140 characters. It's not like you can frame everything up, right? And so a lot of people, that's what created this national response from it. And what I was referring to is that I don't understand what it's like to go to prison for life, but I do understand what it's like to be incarcerated prior to going to court. I do understand what it's like to sit across from the judge, and in anticipation, you're nervous, your mind's racing everywhere, and you're just waiting for this verdict to come down, hoping and praying and wishing that it goes in your favor. And I also understand when they give you the time and the reality sinks in, or the emptiness sinks in, that I'm going to prison, I'm going to a place that I don't want to be in. I can identify with that. Just as my mother may be able to identify with his mother from crying, and just like his wife, my fiance would be able to identify with his wife. Like, I don't know about life, but I know about that feeling right there. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I was talking about earlier. But obviously, the whole situation seems surreal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I honestly thought of you because I knew I was going to be talking to you tonight, and I came home from. I was actually in Cincinnati. Came back and I turned the TV on and I see that it's scrolling at the bottom. Whatever, Aaron Hernandez found guilty of first-degree murder, and then they replay the clip of when the judge. And I always I'm not there, and I get anxiety watching him stand up, and he's sitting there, he's shackled, he's handcuffed, and his lawyers are on both sides of him, and I'm like, I that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, what is that like 10 seconds like before they read a verdict? Because you're right, you got sentenced to what, 7.5 years?
You just, it's like,
I can't imagine, man. That has to be like the most.
I tell you like this, right? The intensity is the same intensity before you're getting ready to play. No matter how many times you play, it's always that. No matter how many times you go through reps at practice, the intensity right before game day is like it's inexplicable. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so you can mimic that feeling towards standing up. And when you stand up, it's like you're isolated and you're alone, and you know whatever this individual says to you, be it good or bad, like you have to shoulder it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But like, have you ever? It's just like, you know, if you lost a family member, or if you lost a somebody who was close to you, right? Very close, meant a lot. It would be sort of like, and I don't want to say this about you and your mother, but imagine the relationship with you and your mother, you and your father, right? Mm-hmm. If you lose that piece of your life, right? You never know, I'm never going to get this back. You look at those years that you're spending in prison, like, in a sense, I'm dead to the reality that I know. You know what I'm saying? And so that collective experience or that collective feeling is placed is just in that place, man. It's something like none other, man. It's crazy to put it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I was the cameras like stayed on his face after they read it, and I'm thinking like, man, this dude just got sentenced to life in prison without parole, by the way, and he has another like double murder trial coming up, which now it doesn't even. I mean, whatever. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, and it's not to take away from the guy who got murdered. Obviously, everybody's focused on Aaron Hernandez because he's the famous football player. That's the reason everybody's watching it, and that's the reason why we talk about him more than everybody else. But also, it's just a bunch of people who lose in the situation. You have obviously the victim, Olden Lloyd. You have his parents and basically their child that they lose. And you have his wife, you know what I'm saying? As crazy as it sounds, my girlfriend suffered just as much as I did in the process. And also his kid will grow up in the same cycle of a single parent home and not having a father, but also dealing with the ridicule from people talking about her father and having to deal with that. So all the way around, it's bad, but also in understanding that process, you know what I'm saying? You ask yourself, like, so AJ Hawk, who has a platform, who has a million fans, who has an experience in college, who has an experience in the NFL, like, at some point through some vehicle, how do you use this podcast or anything to communicate more specific solutions for guys to think better, to be better, and just to encourage him, you know what I'm saying? When I looked at his situation, it's like, how do you utilize his story? Not to say, hey, don't do what Aaron Hernandez did, but to study it, to understand it, and to provide viable solutions, man, so you don't have more guys ending up holding on to a mentality. That's all it is, just holding on to a mentality longer than they need to.
For sure. And I know the culture, at least of professional sports, is like sometimes people get rewarded for where they look like from afar. People look at whatever you want to call it, like someone being a tough guy or a thug or whatever. They get rewarded for like, oh, don't mess with this dude. I'm like, well, look what happens if you really are this person. It's fine to portray an image on the field or on the court, but if you really try to live that lifestyle, like same thing with like watching musicians and rappers, they're not out there shooting dudes every day because they'd be in prison like Aaron Hernandez. They can rap about it all they want. They might have had something going on in the past. I know 50 Cent's been shot and different guys have been shot, and everyone's had a rough go of it, but they're not doing it right now. They're just collecting checks and sitting in their mansions and inviting 30 girls over at a time. So don't think they're out there killing people every day.
But I'm telling, like, I even said that, right? So, AJ, go hard as you can, stick your nose in their tackle, right? Conditioning yourself to be crazy or to be fearless momentarily, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty sure within your life, you build up a character in your head, or you build up an image of your head of what AJ Hawk represents, right? You represent the strength, this tenacious guy, this guy who's tough, right? Mm-hmm. And having the skill, what separates you is having the skill to cut it off, right? This is for this moment. A lot of other guys don't have the mental capacity or the faculties to cut this thing off, right? I'm Maurice the Beast. I'm Maurice from Youngstown, Ohio. I come up, I'm strong, I'm tough. I've been hustling since I've been a kid. Prior to this, a lot of people didn't even know. I moved out my mother's house at 15, so the majority of my time in high school, I spent on my own. That was part of me being comfortable to come down alone and just not be afraid of the transition from that regard, right?
Where'd you stay if you didn't stay with your mom?
Stayed in an apartment. Stayed in an apartment right down the street from school.
How'd you finance that deal?
Yeah, right.
Did you find, I was 15. I was working at a garden shop next to the high school.
I was selling my little weed, right?
There you go. Okay.
I just selling my little weed on campus on just to the kids in the neighborhood. But I was able to pay bills, and that's what I was doing in that moment. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't realize that this individual only worked in Youngstown. I didn't really realize that, or just like this, or think about all you guys from South Florida, right? Think about you guys who come from Houston. Think about you guys who come from LA, right? And this is nothing racial, but let's talk about culture, right? They all seem to hold on, or a lot of us seem to hold on mentalities longer than we need to. And it's more so speaking through that vein, you know what I'm saying? The separation of mentalities and understanding that, the culture that you're going into, the people that you're going to meet don't think like you, and there's nothing wrong. It's just this requires a different set of skills, just as it'll require a different set of skills to play from a 4-3 and 3-4. You know what I'm saying? Just as it takes a different set of skills to run zone and to run power. You know what I'm saying? But in the mental world, it's all the same.
Yeah, man, it really is, and it's almost. It's like you got to find a way to. The hardest thing I think, for you, how many hanger-oner type guys did you have that came out of the woodwork, especially? But you were let's be honest, you were the man in high school, though. Everyone knew about you coming in, and then it just got magnified times a million after a couple games your freshman year. But was it more of what was going on in your head and how you felt about yourself, or was a combination of that with people coming out of the woodwork that maybe you didn't know before all this?
No, it happened like this. In high school, I was relatively doing my own thing. But what happened was that you had a bunch of guys who were from my neighborhood. And just to put a number on it, it's about 15 to 20 guys, right? And so they lived in apartments in Columbus. And after I was done with the game, I wouldn't hang around guys within the team. I would go back and hang with my cousins and everybody else because I lived off campus. Mm-hmm. And so as a result from that, everybody would just sort of come around to enjoy the success. You know what I'm saying? AJ's successful. AJ can facilitate the girls. AJ can get us in the nightclub. AJ can, we can get threesomes going. We can have all of this nonsense.
And by AJ, you mean Maurice in this.
Yeah.
Talk. I was 18. I was an idiot. I wasn't able to facilitate any threesomes at 18, Maurice. I wasn't rushing for 250 at my first game.
Just to put in the context.
But I get exactly what you're saying. You had an aura around you of greatness, and you could, it's like you had a key to the whole state, basically. You could do whatever you wanted. Yeah,
and that's what happens. And so you can't even blame the individuals, right? Because what would you do if you were in a situation? You know what I'm saying? When somebody, like, you probably have a family member right now who's just a diehard AJ fan, and he may not, you know what I'm saying? And he may not understand how to be professional at times, you know what I'm saying? And he just wants to root for you. He wants to be around you. And if you weren't married, right, you said, hey, let's go out, let's have women, let's drink, let's enjoy ourselves. He would be right there with you, not intending it to do you any harm, but just enjoying this moment because you don't have a lot of moments like this happen in anybody's life, right? At the end of the day, you have only, 125 colleges, right? You don't really have a lot of these moments, these spectacular and over the top and celebrity type moments take place in anybody's life. And coming from Youngstown where it's deprived and you don't have it, when your best buddy can allow you this access in their life and you can do it and he allows it, it's something like none other. And you can kind of relate that to the Aaron Hernandez case. You know what I'm saying? He just probably had a bunch of individuals who didn't understand what it took to be a professional. And him being comfortable to transition out of that space and become, you know what I'm saying? I guess.
And cut him off and realize that you have something to lose. And these guys it's always like, I learned at a young age, you don't ever get in a fight with a guy that has nothing to lose. You know, you see this crazy, messed up hillbilly sitting in the woods. He wants to fight you. You know, you call it like the townies. I'd go visit my brother at OU, and you don't want to fight the townies, man, because they would come into town. They weren't even enrolled in school, and they're going to try to jump you. They're going to try to get in a big group, fight, and jump you, and they don't care, man. There's no rules in a street fight, so you got to make sure you steer clear of those guys. If you see one of your buddies getting in an argument with them, you could recognize them real quick, and that's like – when guys don't have much to lose, and you're a guy that has everything to lose, when you're in the spotlight, you're killing it on the field, it's got to be a hard thing to cut guys like that off. And I think everyone's heard Hernandez the same type of thing. You know, he just had this group of guys around him that didn't really have much going on. They just wanted to live off of him. Yeah,
but then you ask yourself, what is the process of cutting anybody off, right? When you have an actual relationship with somebody, it's very hard. Like, could you just go to your wife right now and say, "Hey, I'm done with you"? You know what I'm saying? Because you know, right?
First, you would slash both my Achilles, and then, but no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and you wouldn't do it because you've built a rapport, you have memories together, you have bonds together, and things of that nature, right? And it's human behavior. It's sort of the same thing to say in regards to sports and athletes. You know what I'm saying? It's just having the ability to do it, to discern it, and to make the decision. Like, you know, you can separate yourself by saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to continue to develop my craft, and I'm going to continue to limit my time towards these individuals. And when I limit my time to them, it's in hopes that they go do something else or replace me or replace something in their lives with the existence of me normally being there. And there's a lot of different ways, but again, it takes skill. Thinking is a skill. You know what I'm saying? Understanding. That's why they write books. That's why you have so many personal development books and so many self-help books and so many guys writing on psychology and philosophy and things of that nature, because people understand it's a skill in how you go about doing things and how you go about thinking and executing.
Do you have any of those guys still around, like these dudes that you were hanging out with shortly after you left Ohio State, and that whole time between then and going to prison?
You know, it is just a natural separation. You know what I'm saying? I went to prison, and as I began to educate myself, and I just became more inquisitive about who I was, and like you'll even go through a journey, right? You know, so much of AJ Hawk, right, is wrapped up in being a football player, right? But there'll come a time after you're done playing, you just ask yourself, like, who am I outside of the football? Who am I outside of my family? Who am I outside of my kids? Who am I outside of this jersey? Who am I outside of Ohio State, right? And throughout that process, there'll be a completely different understanding of who you are. You know what I'm saying? Outside this microphone, outside of all these things, like, what would people do if you were nothing? You know what I'm saying? If you couldn't do it, how would they really treat you as an individual? And why do people treat you the way they treat you? You know what I'm saying? And so when you go to prison, everything's gone. You know what I'm saying? There's no football, there's no car, there's no home, there's no women, there's no nothing. It's you and your thoughts. And it was me and my thoughts. And so going through that and understood who I was, just that process, it naturally just didn't attract me to the individuals or the behavior, right? Because I gained an understanding of why we were doing the stupid stuff that we did. I understood why people treated me the way they did because of the way I ran a football and all these trivial things. And just the natural separation came. When I got out of prison, like, my priorities, the things that I wanted to accomplish didn't include these people. You know what I'm saying? And so from chasing my priorities, like, okay, so from chasing who it was that I knew I wanted to become and doing that every day and being relentless, like, you avoid so much because you're in constant pursuit of developing yourself professionally, right? So there's so many things you miss, so many things you avoid, and so many things that don't come around you, right? And so in that process, you're not trying to cut people off, you're just becoming who you become. You know what I'm saying? And in my situation, it's the same thing. I'm becoming who I know I'm supposed to become. In that same mentality towards football, I'm just putting it towards this. The same ambition, the same energy, the same passion. I'm just in a different, more relentless stage, and people just don't naturally come around.
Yeah, you're attracting the different, different kind of people. That's the thing. You give off an energy, and people can probably see that. And these guys that want to bring you down and take you out, and as you said, set up threesomes and all kind of stuff. They're not around anymore. You're also older and you're engaged and you got a kid, and that's good, just natural transition. But how so Hernandez is going to prison for life, or whatever. How were you received in prison when you found out you were up in Toledo?
Toledo, yeah.
How were you how did people view you? Because obviously they all knew you when you got there, I'm sure. How did they like receive you? Were you was it like a celebrities coming to prison, or were they like upset and jealous of you?
No, you have you have different prisons. Just to break this down, you have your non-violent crime prisons, and then you have your violent crime prisons. And your non-violent ones are kind of laid back, and your violent ones are more intense. And when I got to prison, just like it's an environment where no one really says anything to each other. You know, everything is kind of like stale face. You talk to who you talk to, and no one really says nothing. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody who, or if an individual has a sense of jealousy, or if he has a sense of resentment, or he hates you for whatever reason, if he's not willing to fight you over it, there's no reason to mention anything about it. So for the most part, you know, prison is kind of like a mind your business place. You know what I'm saying? If AJ came into prison, or when I first got to prison, just to describe my situation, when I first got there, it was just like, hey, get yourself together, get yourself in some programs, and mind your business. Like, that's the first rule, number one, mind your business. If you see somebody fighting next to you, mind your business. If you hear somebody spreading rumors, mind your business. If you see somebody participating in sexual acts with each other, mind your business. Don't look at it, look straight, walk down the hall, and worry about you. You know what I'm saying? And so my transition was like that. You know, I go out there, I mind my business. I get real heavy into books. I enjoy reading. I enjoy writing. I enjoy doing that and discovering that, but also enjoy working out. You know what I'm saying? And I got to working out, and so that was like my process in prison. You know what I'm saying?
Did you have a cellmate?
No, you're isolated single cells. You know what I'm saying? The first, like I just give you the progression. The first 7 months I was in the county jail. I was isolated, and I was locked down for 23 hours of the day. So for your entire, I think it was your senior year, or where were you at? It's 2006.
That was my senior year.
That was a senior year. So for your entire senior season.
Well, I ended up right at the 2006 Fiesta Bowl. I think that's right when you were going to trial. Maybe I don't think you were locked up yet.
Yeah, but I was that entire 7 months. I was locked down for 23 hours of the day. So just sit inside the cell, and I was able to watch everything by just sitting inside of a cage for 7 months, right? And so then I transitioned from there to the prison, and I lost train of thought. But basically, I lost train of thought. So, you know, basically I was there for 7 months, and then transitioned to the prison, and I forget where I was at.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, I was just asking about having a cellmate and how, like, the whole setup was. Then, so when you went to Toledo, up to when you got out of that county, were you around, like, big groups? Like, was there you guys all eat together and hang out and get to watch TV together and stuff?
Yes. The way it looks is you have 600 people to a unit. And so essentially, the way it looks is that the doors open at 6 in the morning, and you come out. Some people stay asleep. Some people come out to the day room. You have a TV in your room, or you have a TV within the day room area. And it's literally just like you unlock the doors, and people just come and do what they do. You know, either you're playing cards, either you're playing chess. Some people read books. Some people go get on the telephone. Some people go heat some food up in the microwave. Some people wash clothes. But you do this just sitting in your cell, and then you'll have a structured time throughout the day where they say, you know, you can go outside and have recreation. So you'll be let out to cell block, and you transition, and you have recreation, and there's a bunch of people on the yard like you see on TV, and you go do that, mind your business, and you come back, and it's sort of like Groundhog Day every day.
Did you ever have anyone try to, like, challenge you? You know, everyone says your first day of prison, you got to go there and fight the biggest guy you see and let him know you mean business.
No,
you didn't have any of that?
No,
because you were one of the biggest guys, probably.
No, you have a lot.
Well, yeah, never mind. I guess
you have a lot of individuals who are very big, and so you have confrontation, but they're handled privately within prison. You know what I'm saying? You have confrontation between guys. So if a guy wants to get into an altercation, just to put it in context, he'll say there's meeting places. You know, so you either meet in the cell, and me and AJ we fight one-on-one in the cell, or you meet at places where guards can't see, and kind of it's like everything in prison is old school. Like you just everything is secretive. You handle your business in private. You go fight in private. It's not everybody's business. It's not a big show. But that's how things are kind of handled. But you'll go through places. Everybody's going to go through. You're going to have to get into some altercation while you're there. Like it's just kind of how it is. Like there's nothing. It's just what it is. You know. So like this. If you run ISO, you're going to hit a linebacker. You know what I'm saying? It's like it just. Like this, there's going to be a collision, you know what I'm saying? And so, like it's just like this is like it's like this social structure. Like there's you're caged in. You only have so many resources. You only have so many instruments that everybody uses, be it a washer, dryer, and microwave. And you have people from different cities, and you have a bunch of stress and anger going on. To put this in context, 80% of the guys who I was in prison with, these guys are in prison for life. So you have a lot of hopeless situations around you. You have guys who were locked up in the 70s, guys who were locked up in the 80s, and guys who just got locked up in the 2000s. And so you're going to have differences in opinions and just confrontations, man. And it happens. You know what I'm saying? You just grow through it and you go out of it and you roll on.
Yeah, you served, what, 3.5 years?
Yeah, 3 years and 11 months.
God, that's almost 4 years, basically 4 years. That's a long time, like so long when you think about it. I know compared to, you're thinking like Hernandez has life or whatever. I'm like, can you imagine being, when you think about it, if you really try to think about it, 4 years of your life, you're locked up in there, man. That, it's just, it's hard to even fathom how long that time is, and it's all relative, obviously, with different people. But how did you end up getting in there? I know you. So, okay, the night, I want to ask you about your whole DDSD, different day, same discipline thing. I'm going to get to in a second. But the one thing that I was always wondering about. So the night you got pulled over, you led the cops on a little chase or whatever, and is it true you had swords in your car with an AK-47? If you did, that's awesome, by the way.
I didn't have any swords. No, actually in the car it had a, you know how like some people keep tools in their car. It was actually my mother's car. She had like a little tool thing, but it was a hatchet in there. So they just were like, hey, this hatchet is with him. Okay. I guess I was cutting bodies up or something. Right?
Okay, and you have a bulletproof vest on? Is that true?
Yeah, I did have a bulletproof vest on, and I had 4 guns.
What were you wearing the vest for?
You know, I was transitioning. I was transitioning to my destination. Now, just to be honest with you, just to shoot you straight, you know, to make it a serious conversation, I was going to try to attempt to harm the people who were involved in my case.
Oh, the witnesses that were going to take the stand or something?
Yeah, the witnesses. And so in a way, as a blessing, you know, it's not a lot of situations that say you're blessed to get caught. But basically, I was basically digging a hole deeper for myself. You know what I'm saying? If I went there and succeeded to do what I was doing, but essentially I was on my way over to the location. I'm getting off on Bryce Road, and I'm in the process of me being on Bryce Road. I make a U-turn in the middle of the road because I realize I'm going the wrong way. And in the process of doing that, the police officer was sitting inside the Home Depot parking lot. So he pulls out. I realize I got a gun on the seat. And out of nowhere, I just don't know why I thought about an episode from Cops, out of all things, right? Mm-hmm. And so I pull over, and I remember on the episode of Cops, the individual had the cop pulled over, the cop pulls behind him, he gets out the car, walks up, and the individual pulls off, right? And so I do this exact same thing, and so I'm pulling.
Oh wow! So as he was walking up to your door, you just gunned it?
Oh, yeah, oof. I just gunned it. But I ain't going too far. I'm in a Hyundai, right?
Yeah, it's your mom's car, you said.
And so I'm trying to get away, and then I go and, you know, end up doing a U-turn. I was headed towards Pataskala at the time. And so Pataskala, you know, is real wooded out there, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not going out here. It's all in the woods. And eventually, to make a long story short, I ended up getting caught.
Man, and so that was the thing I wondered was, yeah, what if you didn't get pulled over? What was like your end game? And you kind of answered. You said so you were going to go up to that. You knew where some of these, like a witness lived or something. Yeah,
you know. So but just all dominating my life. You know, the dominating of my life is like, hey, you know, these guys are going to testify on you. You're going to go to jail. And my logic at that time was just basically kill these people. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm en route, and luckily for me, and luckily for them, and luckily for a lot of people, this thing didn't actually happen. And basically, they stopped me midway.
You think you would have gone through with it if you wouldn't have got pulled over?
Yeah, I mean, just the nature of everything that I was doing. You know, like there was a lot.
Were you drinking?
Yeah, I mean, but the behavior, just the mentality I was in 2004, which so to rewind it to make it make sense. Once I got kicked out of school, and I was out for the 2 years, just my whole life consisted of being in the streets. You know what I'm saying? And so everything, just the things that I did, the drugs I'm selling, the way I'm living, the clubs I'm going to, just the business that I'm handling is all street business. You know what I'm saying? And so in saying that, this is just where my life was at. So murder is a part of Youngstown. Shooting people, felonious assaults is a part of Youngstown. Robbery is a part of what was going on at the time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy it didn't happen. So I'm happy, very happy it didn't happen because I'm at home. I'm at home talking to you on a podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, man. I'm happy it didn't happen. Now hearing you say that, I'm very happy for not only the potential victims, but you, man. That's that cop pulling you over is a life changer right there.
It's a life changer for me. It's a life changer for those people. And if you can watch this movie play out, look at Aaron Hernandez case. You know what I'm saying? He's in the actual situation where, he's been convicted of it and accused of other things. But it goes to show you how far a mentality can develop and things that become normal. You know, when you grow up in where I'm from, the process of solving confrontation, it isn't like me and AJ getting mad at each other and we learn how to talk this thing out. We learn how to talk through our disagreements, right? We don't have those skills. The whole thing to solidify your manhood is that I'm going to kill him, shoot him, or cause him some bodily harm because in the environment that we live in, this is how you're labeled or judged. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the environment or the reality I was in. You know what I mean? And so that's what I was that's what was on my mind.
Yeah, I know that was that's what people thought of, or I think it said in an article someone wrote way back in the day that you were like in the area of one of the potential witnesses or something that might take the stand against you. But do you ever hear the rumors that, because that's one thing that people have asked me, Youngstown is known as like a mob area, old school, organized crime, that you were like running from mob guys that were coming after you. That's why you're wearing the vest and had the guns, that they were going to come after you for some reason, like you took money and didn't pay them back or something?
No, so to put that in context, just to explain it, so if you go back and watch the 30 for 30, right? Mm-hmm. Just to give you a small history of it. One Youngstown is the history is that a lot of guys from the mob from Cleveland to Youngstown to Pittsburgh area, that's where they used to reside. And organized crime for a lot of years ran the political and social structure in Youngstown, but that had to do with more Italian white guys, right? And so the stigma of that, you had so much gangster behavior with killings and shooting from those guys, the shooting of prosecutors, the shooting of lawyers, the kidnapping of people, all these things were normal up there. But when I went to California, where this whole thing came from, a guy who I was good friends with in California, still good friends to this day, he was involved. His name is HawkCast. He was actually in the 30 for 30, right? Mm-hmm. And so they presented him as a businessman, but if you Google him, everything in regards to organized crime comes up, right? A part of the Israeli mob and all these things that he was accused of at the time, right? So if you pull it up on your computer, I don't know if you have one around you, but if you pull it up, it'll give you context. And so this was the individual who I was around for the past 2 years. And in the process of being around him for 2 years and being associated with him, a lot of what he went to court for was for extortion, right? So you had things where, they accused him of extorting guys out of Ferraris, extorting guys out of property, extorting guys out of the equity in their home. And these are the things that he got convicted for. So in the process of doing that, I had a bulletproof vest on and I was driving around a car, and the story became like, hey, he's running from this guy, which was furthest thing from the truth. And I basically had to set the thing straight with the federal agents who were investigating him because he had went to prison at the same time I did. But basically, they had to set the record straight, just so everything could be well with my guy.
Okay, that's good to know, man. I didn't even think about him for some reason. I was thinking about those old school mobsters I'd see when I go up to Canfield and visit my buddy Craig, and I would see him sitting at the bar drinking Crown Reserve, holding stacks of hundreds. And those guys, they weren't even. They're not involved in anything. So don't come after me, guys. A lot of respect for you guys up there. I love you.
Canfield, right in my backyard. I know you up there.
Yeah, man. My buddy Craig lived in Canfield, so I used to go there in college a little bit, and I've been there. It's been a couple of years, but I used to go stay there for the weekend, and we'd go out and hang out at all the local Youngstown spots.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's fun. I loved it, man. But yeah, I'm gonna start wrapping up here. But that's why it's a theme that seems to come up a lot. That's something that I'm like really interested in is how guys like respond, because it's true. Like a story like anybody. I mean, I would use myself for an example. Like I said before, it's kind of boring for me to tell my story of what I've done. I think it's awesome to hear when people have lived a life, man, and you're only 31. You've had so much go on. It's so, and instead of sitting back and looking and saying, what if I would have done this, what if I would have done that, that's easy to say, but I think you seem like you're looking forward, and you have this cool positive outlook, and you're trying to influence young kids, and so people don't make the same mistakes you made. I think it's awesome to see everybody loves a comeback, and I think that's like, I don't know if whatever you want to, not, you don't have to call yours a comeback, but yeah, you served a hard time in prison, and now you're out here speaking. I know you're writing, I know you blogged from prison. That kind of got you started. But can you explain a little bit of what you're doing there? I know the whole with the DDSD, different days, same discipline. Yeah, you started that. What do you like? What's your vision now moving forward?
Oh, well, a lot of the stuff, just to even talk about how speaking came in. I didn't even plan on speaking, right? I wanted to come back, and after I was released from prison, I had educated myself. I'll tell you a few cool stories right before we wrap up. When I was in prison, I just seen just the same attitude or same ambition I had in regards to football. I said, man, I can use this thing in business. I used to study Warren Buffett day in and day out, and he was like the most fascinating character to me, right? And so when I was getting out of prison, I said, hey, I formulated this thought in my mind of becoming a businessman because, when I was in high school, to accomplish some of the things I did, it just took like a different level of confidence and work ethic, and I had those things in me, right? And the fact that I was isolated in prison, I was able to develop that thing from a mental standpoint, right? So I wanted to get out of prison. I wanted to get into senior care services. I wanted to do a senior transportation service, assisted living, and senior in-home care. I want to start my own company, learn how to do it, read from Entrepreneur Magazine, and wanted to basically grow this business. And just the thought of becoming successful or still continuously to become successful dominates my mind. That's essentially what separates me from people. And also understanding business and money and finances and reading and being around it so much. These things actually motivate me to just become this individual that I see in my mind. And just to get to the speaking thing, I know I bounced around a bit.
You're good, man.
Yeah, to get into the speaking thing, excuse me, I'll just tell the end part of my story to make sense to you. So, right, I get out of prison, I head back to Ohio State, and when I'm at Ohio State, Truss is still coaching at the time. It's 2010, and the Omaha Nighthawks, the little UFL team that they had in Omaha, called me up. They said, hey, would you like to play again? So I go out to Omaha, and as I'm out there, we play for the first season. We don't make nothing like 30 grand, like was pennies. After you tax it, I was basically buying me some furniture and clothes and stuff like that, just trying to get back on my feet, you know what I'm saying? And in my second year, I'm not sure if you knew, but I was like, I was strong, I was powerful, and I knew all that stuff. But in prison, I formulated myself a plan of basically how to offer up spring football. My whole thing was basically, Ohio doesn't have spring football. I can be this third-party institution to basically start this business. But my first place to actually start it was actually in Omaha. So I go out to Omaha, and the first thing I started doing was coaching clinics with youth league coaches, right? And so from this standpoint, I'm like, okay, I can teach these coaches how to basically engage with these kids. You have a lot of insurance men or just regular dads who want to coach, but don't understand a systematic approach to growing kids in specific positions, right? They watch ESPN, they watch AJ Hawk, and they have a different understanding of where the kid is supposed to be or his actual capabilities, right? So I started throwing free clinics for the coaches and eventually charging these guys to come down on weekends. The second thing that I did was basically say, okay, since you're connected to this league, how about you bring your kids over here? So basically, we went from 25 kids to 50 to 75 and basically grew this thing, and it was big as ever, right? And so when I was out there, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to become a businessman, do this, and eventually get some money from this and grow it into, grow this into my senior care facilities. So 2 years go by, and stay with me on this one. So I was out there in 2012. And as a process or a condition of my probation, I was only there to play football. And so when the league had shut down in 2012, they forced me to come back to Ohio. Now, in the process of me coming back to Ohio in 2012, ESPN has simultaneously reached out to me. And when they reach out to me, they say, hey, we've been kind of watching you and kind of been seeing you from afar. You got yourself together. Can we do a 30 for 30? And so in the process of doing the 30 for 30, agreeing to do it, in the process of coming back to Ohio, there was a lady in Connecticut from Quinnipiac University. Her name was Mrs. Marilyn Ford. And what Mrs. Ford did was that she had brought me out to a symposium, and they were talking about my case with the NFL. And she said, "Can you please describe what took place in that instance? Just tell me about your life." So I go out here, I tell her about my life, and after that, she invited me back to Connecticut for a week and basically set me on a speaking engagement every single day and forced me to speak. And she was like, there's a lot of guys with your story and your situation, but you don't have a lot of guys who come out of it and continue to do positive things. And so I came from there. In the last year, I went to about 80 different cities, and I finally got a chance to make myself some money. And in the process of doing that, maybe about a year and a half ago, I got into the packaging business. So the speaking thing kind of was just taking off, and people were just paying me to come and speak. And the blogs that I created in prison, put those into book form. Probably sold 15, 20,000 of them just at various different events. Self-published my stuff, made all type of different products, and just basically put my lifestyle on sale. So I basically put my lifestyle on sale, which I think everybody does. But about a year and a half ago, I get into the packaging industry, and I learned about the packaging industry from my guy who's down in Oklahoma. Really taught me about the entire packaging industry, and so I supply different packaging and different pallets and things of that nature. That's what I actually do from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I got a rental property, excuse me, and I just do basically entrepreneurial type of things. But people seem to see me everywhere speaking and think that that's the main thing, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing it, and it's a way to communicate, it's a way to help people, but I enjoy doing everything that it is that I do. If that was enough for you.
It's great, man. You sound busy, which is great. You could tell you're passionate about it, but that's the good thing though about speaking gigs. Like, I think it's awesome. I would encourage you to continue to do those just because your story is so great, and it's going to continue to become, your story becomes even better with all the other stuff you have going on, like you said, all your other businesses. But you can get paid some good cash for going around and speaking, Maurice. You know that, man. Have these companies bring you into their national sales meetings and stuff like that. That's
they give checks.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I want to get into some speaking gigs. I've done a few. Just did one at Ohio Christian University. John Maxwell was there.
Oh, John Maxwell's there. That's my guy.
Yeah, man. Mike Huckabee, and he spoke. And then these guys, the Benham brothers, were really good. I just somehow got roped into it, and they let me come along, and I did a little bit here and there, and it was really fun. But I enjoy it. But man, especially
I can teach you how to leverage yourself.
Hey,
one thing that happened. I tell you this, right? So. I'm all about cutting out the middleman. So I was able to exist outside of an agency. And so I don't give anybody 30% of nothing. You usually get direct cash, right?
So they're going, you're the guy they contact?
Yeah. I'm the agency. You can go to my site and book me. But in all seriousness, after this, if you ever want to get together, I can show you how there's different circuits you can tap into, and there's a lot that you can do in the off season, and how you can leverage yourself, and just knowing vaguely all of what I know about you, how you can leverage it, who you can contact to, how you can get on, how you can get booked, and basically, make yourself another source of income, and potentially when you're done with it, this just becomes an extension of AJ Hawk. Like I said, they pay you to show up.
That's right, man. You just got to have a good, put together a good hour, and then go around and tell your story. It's fun. I enjoy speaking in front of people because I have that same type of feeling that you get almost before you play a little bit, before you go. I'm like, all right, I get kind of like excited / and not nervous, but like anxiety, a little bit like juiced, like start sweating, I get up there and I sweat. I cry when I tell stories about all my kids. I'm a mess, and it's fun, and I love it. And I get done, you feel good. You feel like, okay, man. And then you go and nitpick your little things, the mistakes you made too. I do.
Think about this though, right? So you're giving people the purest thing, right? The purest thing that we have is like communication and words, right? The words shape everything. So they motivate you, they get you down, they just shape so much of your behavior. But you're tapping into just like just different moments of your life, all with the intention of just basically creating a connection. And that's why it's beautiful, man, where you can just go and connect with people and motivate them and inspire them, or give them some sort of insight to create a better understanding. And like I tell you, man, I thoroughly enjoy it. Like I say, I love when I continue to get booked. I just got booked to go down to, like in the fall, I'll be visiting Baylor and Texas A&M, and I'll visit Oklahoma State and also Oklahoma. But, you get a chance, man. There's some kid that you probably inspired that went to TCU or one of these universities, and just he may be going through some troubling moment where he's trying to have discernment or just trying to do anything, but just not hearing about the tackles and not hearing about, why we started to wear our hair real long, or not hearing that bullshit. I don't want to say this bullshit, but when you can just share just your life,
something real, yeah, like struggles, things that everyone goes through.
Yeah, because and it's not to say and don't get me wrong, it's not to say that Maurice Clarett's struggles are bigger than AJ's. Everything is relative. Mm-hmm. Everything is relative based upon what it is you're experiencing. It's not to minimize anybody else's. You know what I'm saying? But it's a beautiful thing, man. And one is cool. Like I say, if I can tell you anything or give some advice, don't go around like a typical athlete with the fucking jersey on and sort of the same old cheesy message. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you, man. No, I don't give cliche stories. My 2-minute drill to life. Like, I don't do that. I'm sorry. As you can see how super professional this is. This is why I like how casual it is. You were, my brother has his own deal called the Learning Leaders Show, and he's like super like crazy detail oriented, crazy
technical.
Yeah, man. Like I like to be prepared. I like to prepare and do everything, but I'm just more I always tell him all the time, like the emails that him and my dad send are like so professional sounding, perfect punctuation, perfect structure, and that's how he speaks too. You recorded one recently with him that he just posted, and I heard a little bit of it. And I'm just thinking like, man, I can never be this structured as like my brother is, man. He's a businessman. He's in sales, and so he's always like he's just razor focused.
Man, people connect with this, man. Any deal I do. This is how people normally act, man. This is casual. What's up, man? What's my guy, Rob Dyrdek? Man, you look at Rob Dyrdek. You look at my man, what's his name, Tosh Show. You look at all like. You
said Tosh?
You familiar with Tosh Show?
Daniel Tosh, the comedian.
Yeah, Daniel Tosh.
Of course, man. He's amazing. You kidding me? He's good because he like offends every single group possible. Like he doesn't single anybody. People are like, oh, that's kind of like racist or whatever. Like, no, he's going to offend every single race, ethnicity, cultural group. It's awesome.
He's funny, man.
He's really funny. He doesn't care either. That's the thing.
And look, right, and so I'm drinking out of my jug, right, my meathead jug.
Oh, that's awesome. It fits you perfect. Your big old strong hands and your big old rock head. I know, man. Quickly before I know you're going to say something, I wanted to give you. I have to give you credit for you're like the kind of guy that was born a freak, born crazy, athletic, and genetically gifted. But then you're like, I use Adrian Peterson as an example. I'm sure he was born really talented, but he works his ass off, man. I've heard great things about him, and that's how all I remember is going in and trying to hang in with you on a squat workout. And you're known big old legs. You're running power every single play, 22 times a game, just killing dudes. But man, I walk in there and you're like warm up sets like 600, and you'd always try to get us in on with you. I'm like 18 years old. I'm not going to say no. I'm trying to get under this bar. The bar's bending. And I can't even go down. So I give you a lot of credit for how when you were at the facility and you were at the Woody Hayes, you were working, man. So that's one thing. No one can ever take that from you.
Let me ask you this, right? So I say that, right? And let me ask you this. Was it a confidence that other freshmen had that made them believe off of the success that I had?
You saying what was that? Like, did other people gain confidence from you?
Confidence, right? So I remember when I used to play, right? I used to have this thing in my mind that I'm going to make these other guys believe that they can compete, and that doesn't matter if they're 18. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know if guys became more confident from seeing like one of their peers go out there and do it. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like a sole motivator of mine to be like, I don't work in even today. I don't work in traditional framework, right? Like I don't care how people do stuff prior to me doing it. I just wrap my brain around this is what I'm supposed to do and this is what I'm going to do, and I don't have a process before that. Like I just like at 18, I'm better than these guys and I'm going to play. I don't care if I'm 18. Being 18 doesn't factor into anything. And I was just wondering, like, did other guys, or did you yourself, or did other guys have confidence from saying, like, hey, this guy's our peer, he's playing, or did it become motivating in some capacity? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think for most guys, the guys that wanted to really wanted to be on the field and weren't, some guys come in, they're honestly happy to not play and happy to sit on the sidelines. But for the guys that wanted to, yeah, it was a super motivator to see you in there. I remember, like I said, I came up and watched a couple of spring practices my senior year in high school, and when you're not a part of it yet, you feel so far removed and like it's so distant. And I remember going to practice and standing there. It's like March my senior year in high school, and you're out there with full pads on, running drills and hitting dudes, and I'm thinking like, man, I'm going to be out here in 4 months or whatever at camp doing this. And so, yeah, I think it was definitely a motivator to see a guy like you. You had that. You were on a different planet though from day one. Everyone knew you were a freak right off the bat. You came in ready, So that was. I think everyone took a lot of motivation from that.
I tell you this, you never. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I thank God. Whatever. I don't know if it's my ancestry. I don't know where it became, but I tell you this, man. You never. If you became that guy, like if a guy told me to describe AJ, I remember AJ being a disciplined, hard worker, humble, and a quiet guy at that time. So of course everybody matures and grows into something else. But you never lose the core of that. So you never lose that. Like I'm telling you, like every day I'm up at 5:30. And I don't have to be up at 5:30, you know what I'm saying? But you just start to understand the patterns of success or things that keep you above the rest. And I'm telling you, it's like it never leaves. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different between guys who are good and who kind of play, but then guys who just like I just believe in my head that I just can become great, and not like just at one specific thing, but just things that sort of push me to just be better. I don't know where I get it from. You know what I'm saying? And I forgot to tell you, it made me even more of a believer. I had a chance to meet one man, Warren Buffett, right? And I don't know if I told you that. So
no. And when you were playing for Omaha?
When I was at Omaha, Nebraska, another reason why I always push self-education. So I was in Omaha in my second year out there, right? Our head coach was the head coach of TD Ameritrade. And you familiar with TD Ameritrade?
Yeah. He was your head coach of the team?
The head coach of the team. Now look it up, Joe Moglia. So Joe Moglia was the CEO for Ameritrade from 2001 to about 2007. And in 2008 or whatever, he decided just to be the chairman of the board. And after that, in 2010, he said he wants to get back into football. So since he lived in Omaha and had interned or became a GA of some sort, not a GA, but an assistant at Nebraska, they allowed him to be the head coach of our football team. So he had coached like 15 years prior to that, and then stopped and got into finances, made hundreds of millions, and then got back out, right? So my second year, we go to the golf course. And when I'm sitting out there, you're like, yo, tell me about your life. In the process of doing that, I told him about my love for Warren Buffett, told him about value investing, all of that I learned about investing. And I was just kind of picking his brain just to kind of see where my head was at, right? And so he's like, Warren Buffett's a buddy of mine. I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, all right, whatever, get the fuck out of here, right? And so he was like, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are my friends. So I'm thinking, like, you serious? And he was like, yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool. And he was like, could you, he was like, I'm going to see if he'll do me a favor and meet you. So the next thing I know, he called me up, and this is like a Wednesday, and asked me, like, yo, are you doing anything Saturday? It's Warren Buffett. Would you want to come down and meet me? So I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah, I'll be there in a minute. So I ended up going down to meet him, and I thought it was going to be like a quick picture and then roll out. But I was able to sit with him for like 5 hours, about 5 or 6 hours, just one-on-one, just going back and forth with him. And it was like the most beautiful thing in my life. But it taught me a lot of stuff, man, what success really looks like and how it operates. Super humble, super casual, face halfway shaven, super old TV, driving a Cadillac outside. Car can't be no worth more than $12,000. Dusty desk, and just was real super humble. And I tell you like this, just to take away, it was one thing he told me. He said, man, he was like, one thing he said, he only accepts 7 phone calls a day. And he said one thing he's figured out in life, that people are the worst distractors. And he said that if you're developing who AJ Hawk is supposed to be throughout the day, then you should naturally run into the people who you're supposed to meet. But he said what happens is that people get bored and they send AJ a text message or they give AJ a call, and then you take your energy off of that, and then you're slowing down your process to become who you're supposed to become. And so from that standpoint, it taught me, like, if you're really interested in becoming who you're supposed to become, then the majority of your time within context should be spent on developing that individual. And it was like, I was like, man, and I understand it now. You know what I'm saying? Just understanding that the majority of your time is spent developing who you are, you know what I'm saying? And just aligning yourself with people who are developing themselves, like, and I say it all the time, like, your friends in your childhood and your friends in college, they are your friends through circumstance because you're around each other because your mother lives here or we play for the same team. But once AJ is done with football, you may have levels of familiarity with these people, but your priorities change. You know what I'm saying? And so many guys want to hang out and talk about old college stories and all that nonsense. But still, AJ has to become somebody else. That's why man Junior Seau blew his brains out. He didn't realize what else was out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And just that separation and grieving process. But like I said, that was just a quick story. I've been hogging up all your time.
Oh man, this is for you, man. That's the good thing. I don't have a boss. It's me. It's me and Todd, my buddy who's going to upload this to the site. But that's cool, the 7 phone calls a day thing, because that's a great point. That just, it's so simple once you think about it. It's not easy to do. That's a great thing. I heard someone say it's simple, but it's not easy, and that's true because people want your time, and it's so easy to reach out to people now. So that's a good deal. Was he familiar with your story and your whole deal?
Listen, man, that brother wasn't familiar with anything.
Was he? So obviously he's a billionaire. He's a genius, making all these amazing moves. So was he completely coherent and with it, and seemed really put together?
The beauty of it is that he reads 4 hours a day, right? So he said he gets up at 5 and he reads 4 hours. Just to stay engaged. So the process of him reading allows him to engage on a personal level. And so, of course, I was asking questions and picking his brain. I probably had fucking 2 hours of questions. But just him being that well-read just allowed him to engage on a personal level.
Yeah, he probably loved it, though, hearing the kind of questions you would ask him, I'm sure, are different than some of the ones that he's getting on a normal daily basis, and you weren't there coming to him for something, you weren't asking him for a check or a handout. You just wanted some of his knowledge. And I'm sure every phone call he gets, everything is someone sending him potential deals, no-brainers. This is a no-brainer. Invest in biodiesel here from, yeah. So I'm sure it was refreshing for him too. That's cool of him to get to spend that much time with you. Because think about what 5 hours of Warren Buffett's time is worth. Well, $7 million if you think about it.
He charges $600,000 an hour.
Oh, $600,000
an hour
to go give a speech or something. Does he go give talks and stuff?
No, he does. He doesn't do that. But just one thing, he goes to prisons for free. He has an educational program inside of prisons to help guys learn how to invest like him. He does his annual meetings, and what else does he do? I don't know all of what he does. He doesn't charge for that. But if AJ Hawk wanted to consult with him, if you want to consult with him about a portfolio that you have or something of that nature, you'll be paying him $600,000 an hour to do so. But I'm telling you, he breaks it down. He doesn't believe in that. He believes in low-cost index funds, and he always talk about the hedge funds and mutual funds are rip-off. That's a whole different story, though. But he's all about low-cost index funds, and he tells why. And it was cool talking to him.
That's a good story, man. It's cool that you. What a weird world that you played for the Omaha Nighthawks. Also, you played with Amon Green, a guy that I played with.
Yeah, AJ, he's a character.
Oh yeah, he said you were a monster though. He's like, oh, Maurice liked to work. He was a worker. I'm like, yeah, I know. I played with him.
AJ, he was like at the I got out of prison, right? And this is just a funny story, me and Amon, right? So I got out of prison, like I'm super intense, super focused. And I remember one day we in the meeting room, we watching football, and so everything is intense with with football, everything. Everything is intense with prison. And I remember one time he was by me and he farted, right? And he didn't say, excuse me. And I was like, man, what the hell are you doing? You
got mad at him? You're like the old man that got mad at the fart? Yeah. There's coaches on like buses that happens too.
But it just goes to show you, like, when I was just released, and like now I look back at it, I was like, man, what are you getting mad for? But it goes to show you how intense I was. But AG was super cool, and he played with us for a year. But it was eight quick games, cool. But I used to think he was weird because he used to have so much Batman stuff, right? So
oh my God, he's obsessed with Batman.
Yeah, right. So one day I'm in this lot, like I'm out of prison. Like, just think about this extreme. I'm extreme out of prison, and I see a grown man with a Batman toy, and I was like, man, this is nuts. For the record, me and AG are cool, but it was just extreme. Like,
sure, well, think of your mindset that you're trying to adjust to the real world, and you're coming out of prison. I'm sure, trust me, I'm sure most of your team was scared. Hey man, don't fart around Maurice. He might kill you. He might be sent back. He might be sent back if you fart around him. That's a good story, and that's a great way to wrap this thing up. Now, Maurice, thank you for that insight to your mindset of how you were when you first came out.
Cool, but man, listen to me. Enjoyed being on with you. I hit you up in town. I'll do some traveling over the next. I got to go to a few universities, but in due time, since you're right down the street in Cincinnati, be sure to hook up, man. Just to wrap it up with you, just see what's going on with you. But I enjoy it, my brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on.
All right, cool.
All right, man. See ya.
Yep.
Thank you for joining in. Please visit thehawkcast.com where you can discover the next guest, get a little more information about why this exists, watch past episodes, or link over to iTunes. And tell some friends too, so we can all hear more great stories together.